Thanks for tuning in and welcome to Marketing Bites, Restaurant Growth Unwrapped. I'm your host, Brian Siemienas, the Vice President of Restaurant Solutions for Nift. Today, I welcome our guest, Bennett Maxwell, Chairman of Dirty Dough. Welcome, Bennett.
Thanks, Brian. Happy to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you on today's episode. And, always exciting when a brand starts. It doesn't happen as frequently, but can you share with us how it all started from making cookies in the dorm room kitchen in Tempe, Arizona, to almost 100 locations in the U.S. and another 450 signed and under development?
Yeah, it's a lot of luck, I think. A lot of luck, a lot of timing, a lot of bad luck, on depending on how you look at it. Company started in the end of 2018. I grew up here in Utah, had a buddy that I went to high school with. He was in Arizona at ASU, and he saw Crumble, just beginning, and another company right before Crumble called Chip. And he's like, I want to be the first gourmet cookie in Arizona. But college student, what do? Well, let's just sell it out of my apartment, delivery only. So he was doing that. And then he just had posted on Facebook, hey, I'm looking for an investor. I sell out most nights. I want to build a storefront. So I kind of reconnected him with him. He invested in 2019. The first storefront opened in March of 2020. Wednesday was the national COVID shutdown, and Friday was the grand opening. So talk about timing, at the end of that year, I was in San Diego running a solar company. I'm like, hey, dude, let's franchise it. I'll be your first franchisee. Crumble just opened up here. I heard it was their top store today, 3.6 million, a stupid cookie store. Like, what are they doing? Like, it's a great market. Let's franchise it. And long story short, he didn't want to franchise it. And he just said, I'm done. I'm working 80, 90, 100-hour weeks. I have a family. I dropped out of school to do this, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth it for me, So I just listened to a podcast, and it said true wealth is in buying businesses and real estate. And I've been in real estate for a little bit, and it's a great investment, but I've never even considered buying a business. So probably because of that podcast, I'm just like, what the hell? Let's roll the dice. Never been in food, never made cookies. This is a store out of state, but I purchased it with the intent of franchising it and as quickly as possible finding people that would help me do so, because obviously I lack the knowledge, and I still lack the knowledge, but I feel like I've been very fortunate to get some high level experienced people in the food franchising space.
Yeah. So you talk about wanting to be, that first one in Utah on the franchise side, and you were, and, looking at it, just a unique story. You and Crumble got into a legal battle in Utah that got branded as Utah's Cookie Wars. Looking into it and reading about it, it was truly a David and Goliath. You were a one location store, no brand at that point, one location. They were over $1 billion in revenue. A lot of the settlement was confidential, but without creating any additional revenue streams for legal teams, what did you learn from this experience, and how did it help you?
So we got sued again. One store, get the lawsuit, never been sued before, stomach drops, shit. I've never read a lawsuit, and I read this one and I was laughing to myself, like out loud. I'm like, wait, they're suing us over the shape of a box, but yet their trademark attached to the lawsuit says we do not claim the shape of this box on this mark. Okay, I've heard of this. It's a business strategy. You have more money, you bury the competition before they could get going. That's all it was. 6 weeks later, I'm getting on a flight to Mexico for a month. I was going for a whole month, and I see that a local news article picked it up. Crumble suing Dirty Dough. It's like, crap, now I have to kind of, if it's public, I want to sell my side of the story. And I think because it was such a ridiculous lawsuit, I was very confident in my approach. I'm like, I'm just going to break it down. And I think this should be illegal. It's not, so that's fine, whatever. But I can sue you today, Brian, or I can file a lawsuit tomorrow or after this call. And I can, Brian looked at me weird and it caused emotional distress. Okay. Well, starting tomorrow, you can't get an SBA loan. That's it. It doesn't matter how stupid the lawsuit is until it's settled. Well, how are you going to settle with me? Well, I'm just going to drag it out for a few years, and we have to go through discovery. And then I can delay it, and it doesn't hurt me if I'm $1 billion company. So I was trying to bring awareness to that. And I did like a LinkedIn campaign, and I broke down every single one of their points of the lawsuit. And I just didn't hide from any of it. I think that attracts a lot of people, but we were also playful and fun. We did billboards. that said, cookies so good we're being sued, and our cookies don't crumble with competition. Let your taste buds be the judge. And I'm sure people had a laugh driving by it, but I posted it and I tagged Crumble and I'm like, hey, I like your billboards. How do you like mine? And that picked up, I don't know, 50 other news stations. And then we got on CNBC and Good Morning America. So I think the response of just being open, authentic, not trying to hide behind anything, I think people really rallied behind that. And then my ability and willingness to just be like, yeah, I'll take any and every interview, when Crumble denied any and every interview. Because I mean, how do you answer a question? How are you suing a cookie or another cookie company because they use sprinkles on their cookies and they release the sprinkle cookie first? And I can verify that on social media today. What do you answer? You know, it's no, we're not taking interviews. So it gave us a lot of attention. And I think we already had the processes as far as like a really simple cookie concept. I give you a cookie puck, you put it in the oven, same time, temperature, fan speed, you operate at 500 square feet, one employee. Like, it's a very, very simple model. And then we also had a really good team led by, you know, a CEO who's been in the business for 40 years and a lot of other things. We just needed the eyes. And the lawsuit gave us the national attention. And then, you know, we sold hundreds of franchises because of it.
Oh, fantastic. So you brought up a little bit the, you know, puck concept and, you know, moving on to Dirty Dough. What makes you guys different than the competitors? What's that competitive edge that, you know, you guys have created?
Yeah. The name Dirty Dough sounded cool. So Tyler, the guy that I bought it from, my buddy, that's where the name came from. But I was visiting the store shortly after I purchased it. And the customer said, hey, what's the name Dirty Dough? And an employee said, Dirty Dough means the dough's dirty because we have more mix-ins. I'm like, oh, I like that. I like that a lot. How many chocolate chips do we use per batch? And it was 6 cups. I'm like, we're going to 9 today, you know, like 50% more. That's what we're going to do. And then we're going to do 2-layer cookies. And then I started looking for specialized machines and I found one that does mochi balls, which 3 layers. I'm like, can I make a cookie? And they're like, I don't know. Let's test it. You know? So we started testing and then from that, so we focus on the inside of the cookie rather than the exterior of the cookie. That's what makes us different. Every single cookie, almost every single cookie is filled with something or has multiple layers of whether it be dough or fillings. And then I really wanted to have kind of a bigger purpose behind the company, due just to my experience with the solar company, which is fun, good money, good exit, but it left me feeling a lot more unfulfilled than I expected. So I'm like, okay, it's not about the money. I've already been down that road. It didn't work. So I want to do something a little bit more. And I wanted to focus on joy and fulfillment. How do you have more joy and fulfillment? It's mindset or mental health. And what's causing the mental health crisis, in my opinion, your mood at any given time is a result of your expectations versus your reality. And social media raises those expectations of who I should be, what the type of family I should be doing, what vacations I should be doing, but our expectations stay the same. And I looked at the Crumble product. I'm like, oh, that is that in a nutshell. It's like a plain cookie with a lot of jazz on top. I want to go the opposite. I want to do a plain looking cookie with all the goodness in the middle. So it kind of just all fit together, but it wasn't planned. Like when I bought Dirty Dough, I didn't know that I was doing that. I didn't know I was doing the mental health. I didn't know I was doing the 3-layer cookies. It was just, let's go throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
Okay. So you get into what sticks, and down here in Orlando, unfortunately, I see coming soon, actually near my part of town. So I'm looking forward to it. But you talk about flavors. I'm one of those, the more ingredients, the monster, whatever you want to call it, the better. I've never had someone say, no, too many ingredients if it's the right stuff. Yeah. How many different flavors do you have, and what is your innovation process? Because there's all types of good candies and toppings you can mix together, I imagine.
Yeah, so there's an endless amount of possibilities, and all of our franchisees are constantly submitting flavor suggestions on our admin portal, which is fun to look at and go back and forth, you know. So we get a lot of ideas externally. We've done some social media campaigns to get ideas. And then we have a baker that, you know, develops them. Then we do all the taste testing. If it passes that, then it goes to the food scientist to now be made in the factory at scale. So that's kind of the process. We partnered with a management company, Craveworthy Brands. They have endless years of experience, more than me. And they're like, hey, you guys can't carry 60 SKUs of cookies and try to ship it from Pennsylvania to Florida to California when you're a small company. It's just not going to work. we're going to reduce the SKUs. We'll still have 60 flavor profiles, but we don't need a unique cookie base, because really there's only a handful of cookie bases anyway and a handful of fillings. And then it's just more mix-ins. But rather than mix them in, let's put them on the top. Now, once we switch to that, I no longer have to guess when that Orlando store is opening, because it gets delayed, right? Because what if I ship them this week's rotation, but they don't open for 3 weeks? What do they do with that cookie? And then there's overage. And then, oh crap, I had a big week, so I sold out. But we always have to prepare the cookies 8 weeks in advance, So we reduced it to, I think we're at 13 SKUs as far as cookie pucks. And then now we're focusing, as far as adding different flavors and uniqueness, more on the top of the cookie, but every cookie still fits the branding of it's all stuffed 2-layer, 3-layer cookie. We just use a little bit more toppings to change the flavor profile and make it more cost effective for us and our franchisees.
Okay. So, you talk about it, that single location and scalability. Obviously, you started the brand, a lot of challenges, especially when you are using your own blood, sweat, and tears to make it through the day, especially during COVID. How have things changed as you've gotten to the standpoint of franchising? And I'll always view it, and I've been fortunate in my career at Hard Rock, I was able to meet Isaac Tigert, one of the two founders, with Peter Morton. And, he would always refer to it as, yeah, my child, I was protective of it, but at some point I let it go. He sold off the company and now sees it all over the world. But he still said it was very difficult because sometimes he loved what was done, other times he didn't. How are you handling that aspect of, going from that single location to what you are today and going to be in the future?
Yeah. So focusing a little bit more on the letting go aspect of it. When I started my solar company, I founded it with my brother, who's 13 years older than me. And he bought a franchise when he was, 15 years ago or something like that, Signs by Tomorrow. So he just had a lot of great business experience. And the first activity that we did, which I'm just like, dude, I'm not doing this. This is a waste of time. It comes from a book called The E-Myth Revisited, The Entrepreneur Myth. And it's, I'm a good baker, so I would be a successful bakery company. But it's like, no, those are two different skills. And so the activity it has you do is build your organization chart of what you want it to look like in 2, 3, 5 years, whatever. And then plug in your head or your partner's head in every single one of them. So I'm like, again, Brent, this is a waste of time. It's just me and you. We don't need to build this. But it gave us clarity. We did. So I was the CFO because I'm more on the finance side, and I was the sales manager and the sales regional and the sales rep. And then you start with one position, like one of the entry-level positions, and you build it out. What hours do they work? What's their commission structure like? What's their incentives? And then once you build that out, you hire a sales rep and you promote yourself to a manager. And then how much does the manager get paid on overrides? And how can they do incentives and all of that? You build that out and then you promote yourself. But right from the beginning, you're starting with I'm going to get my head out of everything. In order to do that, you have to let go. So I had even though the solar company was only 18 months from founding to sell, like I had some experience with that. And then I made the decision the first month we franchised, I hired Jill Summer Hayes as CEO. She was the founder of Maui Wowie, and she grew that to over 600 locations before selling it. So right from the beginning, I'd already handed off all the day-to-day control, like obviously I can override it, and then now we brought on Greg Majewski, the former CEO of Jimmy John's, and same thing. So a lot of things I don't agree with, but I look at it like, okay, I don't agree with it, but where's that coming from? I don't have experience, so I'm going to trust his experience over my experience and hope it works out. And so far, it's played out pretty good.
Yeah, no, you talk about, Greg, and I was fortunate to actually just be at the Prosper conference where he was one of the panelists. And anytime to hear Greg speak, it's just the passion and the energy and the emotion he has is, incredible. Obviously, You've talked about, your experiences, what you have, what you don't. Certainly a major announcement earlier this year when you became the 11th announced brand under the Craveworthy Brands portfolio. Other than trying to pull you back on the number of SKUs and some of that, how valuable has Greg been, and how has that helped take you guys to the next level?
Oh man, and I mean, infinitely valuable. I feel like the business is always on fire. I think startups are always on fire, right? And so Greg's like, comes in, hey, Greg, we're exactly 2 years from franchising. We've already opened up 60 stores and 50 of those were in the last 12 months. and we have another 400 open. Come help, right? And his ability of just like been there, done that. I've built 6 different companies to hundreds of locations. Like, the ability to make decisions quickly and decisively is also something that I've really noticed. And then the strategy, like the SKUs, and then we stopped. I wanted to be vertically integrated. So I got a warehouse space. I bought the equipment. I hired the employees. And then Greg's like, no, we're outsourcing that until we're big enough. I bought trucks. We were doing our own logistics. He's like, stop. So it really was just like, okay, this guy has done this, been there, done that. And he instills a lot of confidence in the team as well as the franchisees. So getting someone like that on the team is, I mean, it's just so valuable. And I feel very fortunate to be able to have done that and landed that partnership with them.
Yeah, no, and at the conference is, you know, his energy is just so contagious, and he certainly is proud of the brand to the point that they had an after party and actually brought your product in for people to sample, and it was very well received. So, you know, he's, again, you guys are top of mind, and, you know, can't have a more valuable asset than he is in taking this brand to the next level.
Absolutely.
So, you know, talking about going to the next level, certainly marketing is critical for any restaurant, and especially in the dessert and cookie segment. While you shared, you know, the value of the lawsuit, probably not the best long-term strategy to, you know, end up with lawsuits as you know, grow. But you've been very active in social to help fuel the growth. Can you share what your strategy is for marketing of the brand?
Yeah. So there's 2 sides to the social, because I have 2 customers. I have the customer that's going to buy the cookie, right? But my real customer is the franchisee, and the person buying the cookie is kind of a sub customer, right? I need them to buy the cookie to make my franchisees happy, because they're the ones that really drive growth, brand awareness, quality control, all of that. So for the first one, on attacking my true customers, which is the franchisee, I got the advice to build a personal brand, which I resisted. I just wanted the company to build it, because if it's a Dirty Dough franchise, it should be coming from Dirty Dough, right? And he's like, no, it's your personal brand, because your personal brand will follow you no matter what you do. And I thought there was a lot of value to that, but I didn't want to commit to doing it, you know? So he's like, no, I can help you like build the process so you're not actively on there. So in the last 2 years, we've sold the, you know, 400 some odd franchises, and no closed franchises have came from a paid lead source. The most common is social media, you know, and then probably followed by, I don't know, probably podcast, and then maybe referrals, and, you know, if they visit a store. But for the top 2 things, it's like, I think they feed off of each other as well, because I do have a social media presence, and that's why I get invited on more podcasts, which further fuels that. So the actual strategy of the personal branding and how I have it set up now is, you get somebody out of the Philippines. I think the average wage there is like $4. So you pay them $5 or $6, and then you give them everything you want to do. Which what I want them to do is post 2 times a day. And every day it's like, so one LinkedIn poll goes out a week, and another one is about family. Another one is about fitness/health. And another one is a long form post, which is me being on a podcast. And instead of doing the clip, just make it a long form post, you know? So I don't have to do much other than, I got back from Lake Powell yesterday and I uploaded 100 videos, and I said, you know, here's family videos for the next month. So it's very little as far as my involvement, definitely less than 30 minutes a week. And then it appears that I'm very active. I mean, the account is very active. It's just not ran by me. All of the comments and captions are made by ChatGTP, and I just trained it. I don't like this. And it says, yeah, I have to master this skill. I'm like, I don't like using the word mastery, you know, like just little things, and it picks it up very quick. And then I wanted her to start responding to all of the comments. But again, it's like, oh, well, she's not going to respond like I would. So same thing, went to ChatGTP and it's, here's the last 10 posts. Here's what the caption was. Here's what 5 comments were per post. Give me 5 options of what you would say. And then I just went through it with her, maybe 20 minutes. And I said, I like option 1, 2, and 3. I like option 2. I don't like option 4 specifically for this reason. And then we did it again, this time only with 3 posts and 3 comments per post. So, and man, it made so much progress. And then I gave it a little bit more tweaks, so you can go back and see that every comment is liked. So if somebody comments on my things, it's getting liked, and then it's getting responded to, and they're 95% as accurate as I think I would do. And apart from that, they're liking other people's pictures and stuff. It's 50 per day. They're commenting 30 times per day per platform, wishing people happy birthday. So I think it just helps me be kind of top of mind, and I'm in it for the long run because I'm not pitching franchises at all. You know, it's just, here's who I am. This is what I talk about. If you relate to it and you then reach out, whether that's a week or a year or 5 years, it doesn't matter. I'm kind of just trying to build that base. And so far it's resulted in millions of franchise fees collected.
Okay. So obviously that's, fantastic, as you touched upon, a great lead source, for you generating that. As far as on the individual, restaurants, when it comes to the brand marketing to the consumer of, come in, sell that cookie, as you reference, how does that differ, and how is it similar, whether it's, using the chat GBT and other tools?
Yeah. Most of it's done. Be, 2 years ago we had one store, so it's all still new. There's not a huge marketing budget. It's still mainly focused like grassroots marketing. So I was out in Poway 2 weeks ago. It's in San Diego area. My brother opened a franchise, and I'll tell you, if you want to be well received anywhere you go, show up with a box of warm cookies. So he's like, "Hey, what are we gonna do to promote this?" And I'm like, "Make 7 boxes of cookies, or 1 box, I think we started with, but we just cold knocked the closest 7 businesses. Hey, we're a new business, want to give you cookies. We'll offer all your employees a discount if they come in and they show us their uniform. Plus, we would love to sponsor, a cookie giveaway, or whatever it was." And what we focused on is every person who takes a karate class, you can give them this coupon. It's a free cookie, no purchase necessary, with an app download, valid for today only. So you write in the day, and then you can advertise it that they get a free cookie, or don't. And it's just a pleasant surprise. It doesn't cost you a dime. Just give them a free cookie. It's on you, but we pay for it. But yet for the franchisee, like we did it with a cookie cutter haircutting franchise. In 1 month, we got 360 people to redeem a free cookie. That means they're in person, app downloaded, and it's just a kid, right? So the mom and the other family, like, they're buying cookies. So things like that. And then we went to elementary schools. Hey, how do we get part of your booster program and this and that? Again, you show up with a box of cookies to a secretary, you're instantly best friends, right? And then she's going to do whatever she can to help. So I think getting the cookies out and sampling has been the most effective, as far as the grassroots marketing goes. And a lot of that is coming from Greg and Jimmy John's. He said up until 300 locations, we told everybody you have to get 50 samples out a day. And that's how we grew so fast. Other than that, I would say third-party platforms, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, they count for 20 to 30% of sales typically. You mark up your price a little bit on those to account for those big fees, so you're not making less money on them. And then you can set everything. I'm not willing to pay more than $6 for a lead or a customer, a checkout. And I know my average order value is $24. So that guarantees me a 4X return, or else it doesn't spend the money. They're not charging you per click or per view or per impression like other platforms do. So samples and third-party delivery have been the most effective, but there's a million different things you can do out there.
Yeah, no, it's so funny. You've got big companies out there, and when we talk about marketing, everyone likes to get super sophisticated, big words, but you summed it up: guerrilla marketing and really getting in the hand of the consumer. I always like looking at other brands, whether I was at Hard Rock, Darden, or Margaritaville, and those that inspire you. And everyone, even nowadays, it's tough to imagine, but I remember the best at it I always thought was Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A forever never did any advertising. And it was those little things, the Little League nights or the school nights, and just getting that, guerrilla marketing, giving them, hey, here's your free Chick-fil-A sandwich, come in. And just, up until recently, and when I say recent, their college football, they've gone to more mainstream advertising, but that was literally their playbook forever. And not when they were small, when they were thousands of locations versus the behemoth they are now. So,
and Five Guys, I think, is similar. I've never seen a Five Guys ad anywhere, but they do a secret shopper, and they focus on, hey, the employees will make more money if my secret shopper gives them a good score. And then because their employees are I think Five Guys does such a phenomenal job. Chick-fil-A obviously as well. But everybody talks to you, and it makes the hamburger better because you're happier waiting in line because they're shooting the breeze with you, and then it makes the employees happy as well. And because of that, people have a great experience, and they come back because of the experience, not because they saw a billboard. So yeah, those two companies, along with a ton of others, they do such a good job.
Yeah, and you touch upon the employees and people having a good job. And I've been fortunate to work with some great researchers and insights over the years, and even saw it at Hard Rock. It was amazing how the food certainly didn't have to be exceptional, but if that service was, that gave top box marks on the overall, which still baffles me. But it's when you can look at multiple concepts that may not be the best, but they're consistent, they do a great job, and they make you feel good, and as a consumer you just want to go back. So so important, as you mentioned. And I think a good thing, jumping into the culture, certainly you were in the one location. As you grow it, it's just so important in every brand. And when I went to your website, I just loved the fact of, you talk about Dirty Dough strives to be relatable, real life brand that doesn't take itself too seriously. Your tagline, proudly unique inside and out, refers to both our cookies and our people. We aren't worried about filters or getting the frosting just right. We're all about substance and authentic goodness. How did you come up with this? And more importantly, how do you maintain it as you're rapidly growing throughout the culture of the organization?
Yes, I touched on it briefly before, but I wanted to be different, and I wanted to go opposite of the competitor. And it was something that when I started diving into like what mental health is, the cause of the mental health, which I did, the expectations, reality, and social media. So I'm like, no, I want to be the one that's saying life's not perfect and it doesn't need to be. Stop, don't wait for it to be perfect. And if you, going back to the social media, personal branding, I've been on 100 podcasts, and I'm like, things are on fire always. Like, it's tough. Yeah, we're growing, but like, check under the hood. You know what I mean? And I've been trying to be as transparent as possible. And I do think that does relate to more people, which then converts to, higher business, which isn't the purpose. That's just something that I think is super important. So how do you maintain it? That's so hard, especially when you're hiring. We have employees, or franchisees, I should say, which all have, hundreds of employees throughout 25 different states. And how do you do that? It's a challenge. It's a big challenge. A part of it is you could measure. So you give them scripts, and then how do you measure if they're actually using it? Because you're not in the store. Well, there is AI, and all of our stores are installed with the capacity of the cameras and the microphones, so they can detect if they said welcome to Dirty Dough or not. That's not set up yet though, but we can measure what percentage of your sales had a drink attached to it. And if it's 1%, that's because your employees are not saying, can I get you anything to drink? And then you could break it down per employee and say, okay, well, this employee is, but this employee isn't. So it tells you not who's doing bad or good, but who needs to be trained more, right? And you can do that with the going back to the script. Would you like anything else or to drink with that? You could do average order value, because if you ask, can I get you anything else, or what else would you like, rather than just saying, okay, here's your total, you do tend to get an average higher order value. So if you track that per employee, how much they're following the script. You can track, what's the other one? Loyalty percentage points applied. If a customer comes in, are they using their loyalty number? If they don't have a loyalty number, sign them up and give them a free cookie, and then it kind of tells you and steers you where to go. But I think the key is, and I've worked in stores, and everybody has, and there's studies out there that if I have a bullshit conversation with the cashier at Walmart checking out, my happiness levels increase. But if you test me right before, as I'm in the line, and you ask me, hey, will you be happier or not if you talk to this cashier? And it's like, no, I'm super nervous. I'd rather just put my headphones in and listen to my music. So that's the perception, but the actuality of it is the opposite. So it's going to be the same thing as it applies anywhere. I will have a better time working if I just talk to the freaking employees. So like in the Poway store, one of what my brother implemented, and he's a sales guy too, it's you have to ask them something outside of the script. how's your day? Like whatever it is, but try to get to know them while you're prepping your cookies. It'll make your job easier and it'll make them come back. And it makes me happy. It's just win, win, win for everybody. So it's hard. Those are some things that we're trying to do and implement. I think with the advancement of AI and as we grow and we have more funds, we can implement those things. I mean, cameras can tell you how many times your employee, what percentage of the time waved to the guest. The tech's cool, but it costs a lot. You have to train it and it takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think where, as we go to different conferences, what AI is capable of doing and, the advances, it may not be the answer for everything, but it can make life so much simpler. There
Yeah.
was at the NRA show, discussions of, okay, imagine if it gets really big brothery on some of it, but what if you're a regular or loyalty member and the AI can recognize your car and know what your order is and hey, whatever,
Yeah.
Brian. And I mean, there's incredible applications for it, but as you mentioned, and, employees doing what, every restaurant wants to, but, to your point, unless you're mystery shopping, we know they're supposed to be doing it, but are they really doing it? Probably not, because we've experienced it ourselves, knowing what I always joke,
Yeah.
Manager table visit. Every restaurant, it doesn't matter. Ops 101 is you should go visit your tables as a manager. And, you've gone out. How often do you see a manager? It's, a rare sighting nowadays sometimes in these many restaurants.
But it does make the biggest difference. You're like, wait, why are you coming to me? What's special about me? And it does make you feel really good. Another thing that came to my mind as far as to better answer the question on the culture, one of the biggest turnover pieces is, hey, Brian, can you come in? I'm going to pay you $12 an hour. And for 6 hours, you're going to grab dough out of this bin and you're going to put it on this scale by hand. And then you're going to ball it and you're going to be at about, just 10 degrees forward on your back. How long are you going to last? You're not lasting that long. And because we took out that piece, turnover is just drastically lower because now they're just taking orders, putting cookies in the oven and decorating them. And that's a lot funner to do. So I think that's a big thing. All the t-shirts and the branding, it's all over the store as well. So we do try to really, every packaging is, perfectly imperfect. Life gets messy and that's okay. You can't walk into a store without seeing before you even enter. We care about your feelings. And I do think that employees, especially the younger generation, believe in that and get behind that. And anytime you can shift from who's going to make you the most money, whether you're recruiting a sales team like I've done in the past, or recruiting high-level individuals to run your company, or you're recruiting franchisees, if you could take the subject off of how many dollars and cents and say, what are you after? What's your emotional goal that you want to feel? How do I help you get that? And financials are a piece of it, but not all of it. Then it's like, okay, maybe I didn't hit the financial goal the first year, but that wasn't my goal anyway. My goal was personal growth and brand or whatever it is. And I think not enough people talk about that. So when you do, you recruit a different crowd and then the market goes up and it goes down. And when it goes down, not everybody hates you as much because you've set different expectations on the cultural side.
Okay. Moving on now to my favorite part of the episode is with all the unique backgrounds and personalities you shared it, no restaurant experience before that, getting into location number one, like to get into my guests on their, individual as a person. So what was your first job in high school, junior high that you've ever had?
It was working for my brother at Science by Tomorrow. I think I was like 14. I would go to football practice in the morning in the summers, take the bus down there, work for a few hours. Science by Tomorrow. And then I did Shaved Ice. Cutco, served a Mormon LDS mission for 2 years, which is amazing people skills, personality, rejection, resistance towards rejection. And then I got into door-to-door sales, which led me up to solar and then Dirty Dough. So I know you said first job, but that's kind of it was all communication based. And as soon as I started focusing on being becoming a professional communicator rather than like the salesperson. Like, I just want to be able to understand people and communicate with them. It just applies to any and everything I've ever done. So I was lucky that those first jobs were kind of sales and communication, consumer facing jobs.
Okay. If you could have a meal with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Buddha, I guess, because I've been getting into Buddhism and I still don't know what it is. That's not an amazing answer. I'm focusing most of my time, energy, and effort on what I think matters the most, on how to adjust the joy and fulfillment in your life. Again, expectation versus reality. How do you change the expectation? I think it's having different life philosophies. So I've been really diving into that because business is crushing. I'm just, if you've done a startup, if you've raised capital from outside investors, it's crushing mentally. And so really taking care of myself on that side. So I'm going to take a lunch with Buddha and see what he's got to offer.
Great answer. Great answer. And what's something that most people don't know about you?
To answer that question, I'm just going to look at the last year or so. Maybe 2.5 years ago, I got up to 310 pounds at 5'8". I'm short, and because I've really made a good transition, I've been taking care of my health. Most people are like, wait, what? That's a big fitness journey. And I took it during ownership of a dessert brand. So a lot of people don't know that.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Marketing Bites, Restaurant Growth Unwrapped. Bennett, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, hear about your story, and, really look forward to when that Orlando location opens and, see you getting not only to the 100 mark, but then 500 and 1,000.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, Brian.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure having you again. And this is Brian Siemienas signing off. And here's to celebrating the industry we love and serve. Until next time, stay hungry for success.